The Discovery. The stars stretched endlessly around Captain Daniel Hayes, a silent ocean of light and darkness. His small exploration vessel drifted at the edge of known space, far beyond any trade routes or patrol zones. It was supposed to be a routine mission, charting empty sectors, collecting mineral scans, and mapping the void. But tonight, something was different. The long-range sensors had caught a strange echo, a faint signal pulsing in the black, like a heartbeat coming from nowhere. Daniel leaned closer to the control screen. The signal was old, broken, and almost lost to time, but it repeated in steady intervals. It was not natural. It was not from a star, a comet, or space dust. Someone, or something, had left it behind. His fingers tapped the console. "Computer, triangulate the source." The machine responded in a calm voice. "Signal origin, coordinates 975, sector 14. Distance, 22,000 kilometers. His heart quickened. That was close. Too close for something this strong to have gone unnoticed before. Daniel adjusted the thrusters, and the ship glided forward, engines humming softly. The darkness ahead seemed heavier than usual, as if the void itself was hiding something. Minutes passed. The signal grew louder, clearer, like whispers carried through the vacuum. Then his eyes widened. The shadows began to take shape. Out there, hidden in the endless black, were ships. Not one or two. Hundreds. They were enormous, stretching miles across, their metal hulls glimmering faintly under the cold starlight. An entire fleet floated silently in formation, as if waiting for orders that never came. Their designs were not human, jagged, alien, with spires and sharp edges that looked more like weapons than architecture. Some were scarred by battle, others perfectly intact. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. "My God," he whispered. This was not a graveyard of derelict human warships. This was something else, something far older. His ship drifted slowly into the graveyard's edge. The radar screamed with blips, dozens upon dozens of titans surrounding him like ghosts of a forgotten war. The silence was overwhelming. No signals of life. No transmissions. Not even a trace of active energy. It was as if the fleet had died together, and now lay in the dark like tombstones in an endless cemetery. Still, there was one strange thing. The ships were in perfect formation, lined up as though still on guard. Fleets abandoned for centuries drift apart, pulled by gravity and collisions. But these remained steady, as if anchored to an invisible command. A shiver ran through Daniel's spine. He opened his log recorder. "This is Captain Daniel Hayes, Exploration Vessel Horizon. Time Index 2314. I have discovered what appears to be an abandoned alien fleet. Number of ships, estimated over 300, all inactive. No visible crew, no signs of decay. Whoever built them, they were advanced, far beyond us." His voice shook as he paused. Then he added, "I don't think I'm supposed to be here." For a moment, he considered turning back, reporting to the council, letting someone else investigate. But something, inside him, a strange pull, kept him there. It was more than curiosity. It was like the fleet itself was calling to him, waiting for him. He guided his ship closer to the largest vessel, a colossal battleship that dwarfed his tiny explorer. Its surface was marked with alien symbols carved into the metal, glowing faintly, like fading embers. He reached out instinctively, brushing his fingers against the console as if touching the ship through the glass. The moment his ship's lights touched the alien hull, the symbols flared, bright, alive. Daniel jerked back. "What the hell?" The markings pulsed like veins running across the battleship's body, one after another waking up from centuries of sleep. The pulse spread outward, connecting from ship to ship. Suddenly, the entire graveyard flickered with light. A silent wave of awakening. The radar screamed again. Systems that had been silent for ages were now active. Engines hummed faintly. Weapons powered with a low growl, and the once dead fleet breathed again. Daniel's heart raced. He whispered, "It's responding. To me." No one had touched these ships for who knew how long. And yet, the very moment a human came near, the fleet stirred like it recognized him. The silence of space felt heavier, pressing against his chest. He wasn't just an explorer anymore. He was a trespasser, awakening something ancient. In the dark reflection of his cockpit window, Daniel could see his own wide eyes staring back. Behind him, hundreds of alien warships now glowed faintly, their forms shifting from shadows into monsters of steel and light. And deep in his gut, he felt a truth no log could record. This was not just a discovery. This was the beginning of something far bigger. The ghost fleet. Daniel's fingers trembled as he steadied his breath. The alien symbols across the massive hull glowed like veins of fire, pulsing in rhythm, as if the ship itself had a heartbeat. One by one, the other vessels mirrored the same awakening, their silent frames slowly stirring with ancient life. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly impossible. He whispered to himself, "Why me? Why now?" The console beeped sharply. A docking signal, clear, deliberate, flashed across his screen. The largest ship, the one that first lit up, was calling him inside. His stomach twisted. Every rational part of his mind told him to leave, to escape before it was too late. But his eyes were fixed on the docking corridor extending from the alien vessel, like an arm reaching out into the void. He had spent years as an explorer, chasing mysteries in empty space. Now, the greatest mystery of all was opening its gates. To him, Daniel's ship locked into the corridor with a soft jolt. The docking seals closed and silence returned. He grabbed his helmet, sealed his suit, and stepped into the airlock. The doors hissed open. He entered darkness. His helmet light swept across the corridor, walls lined with alien script, smooth metal twisted with organic curves. The air was stale, but still breathable. His boots echoed faintly, each step sounding too loud in the silence. Something about the place felt wrong. It was not just an abandoned warship. It felt like a tomb. Deeper inside, he reached what looked like a control chamber. Tall curved walls arched above him, covered in more glowing patterns. Consoles rose from the floor, their surfaces flickering with faint light. The room was massive, designed for beings larger than humans. Yet it was not empty. He froze. Scattered across the chamber were shapes, alien skeletons, long and twisted, still strapped to their seats. Their bodies had withered to dust, but their armor remained intact, cracked with age. They had died where they sat, as if waiting for orders that never came. Daniel's throat went dry. A whole crew. But before, fear could consume him. One of the consoles lit up fully, casting the room in cold white light. Alien glyphs danced across the screen, rearranging, shifting, and then, shockingly, they changed into words he could understand. Identity, confirmed, human. Access granted. His heart nearly stopped. He staggered back, shaking his head. No, that's impossible. The console hummed louder. Light spread across the chamber, illuminating every wall. The ship was not just responding, it was obeying. Somehow these ancient machines had been waiting for humans. Why? He touched the console with a shaking hand. Images flashed before his eyes, not through the screen, but directly into his mind. Vast wars fought in the stars, empires rising and collapsing, armadas burning. And then, silence. The last image was haunting, the fleet drifting into darkness, programmed to sleep until someone worthy arrived. Daniel gasped, pulling away. His vision cleared, but the weight of what he saw remained heavy in his chest. He whispered, "They weren't abandoned. They were waiting." Suddenly, a low sound echoed through the corridor behind him. Not the hum of machines, but footsteps. Daniel spun around, light beam cutting through the shadows. For a moment, he thought he saw movement. A figure, tall and alien, sliding out of sight. His pulse thundered in his ears. The ship was supposed to be dead, the crew long gone. So what was moving? He stepped carefully, his boots clicking against the alien floor. Every turn revealed only emptiness. Every shadow stretched longer than it should, but the sound followed him, sometimes close, sometimes far, always just out of sight. He whispered into his recorder. Possible automated drones, or something still alive here, proceeding with caution. When he returned to the control chamber, something new appeared on the console. Warning: multiple vessels approaching. Daniel's eyes shot to the window. Out in the darkness, new shapes emerged. Alien ships, sleek and bristling with weapons, were entering the graveyard. Unlike the silent fleet, these were alive, burning with energy, and they were heading straight toward him. Panic surged. Whoever they were, they had found the fleet too, and they would not want a human inside. The console's text shifted again. Command. Protocol. Transfer to human. Before Daniel could react, the ship trembled. Engines roared faintly, weapons powered up, and for the first time in centuries, the ghost fleet began to awaken in full. His jaw tightened. He realized something chilling. He was no longer an explorer who had stumbled upon a secret. He was the key to it. The secret awakens. The deck rumbled beneath Daniel's boots as the alien ship stirred. Lights glowed brighter, systems roared alive, and long-dead machinery hummed with purpose. For centuries, this place had been silent. Now, it was alive again, because of him. Outside the viewport, the invading ships drew closer. Sleek and sharp, they looked like predators circling prey. Their weapons glimmered with red light, ready to strike. Daniel's heart pounded. He was trapped inside a giant alien warship with enemies closing in. The console in front of him shifted again, glyphs rearranging into human words. Fleet command. Transfer. Human confirmed. Defense protocol ready. His hands shook. Command. Transfer? To me? He didn't have time to think. The first blast came from outside, a streak of plasma slamming against the alien hull. The impact shook the chamber, but instead of tearing apart, the armor absorbed the blow. Shields flared, to life glowing like a second skin. Daniel gripped the console, whispering, "This thing's protecting me." Another line of text appeared. Defense engage, YN. He swallowed hard. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't even armed. He was an explorer, alone in the void. But those ships weren't here to talk. They had found this fleet, too, and they wanted it for themselves. His hand hovered over the glowing symbol. Slowly, he pressed Y. The response was immediate. Deep vibrations rolled through the vessel. Massive cannons unfolded from the hull, glowing with ancient power. Across the graveyard, other ships stirred as well. Lights flickering, weapons charging, one after another like dominoes falling in silence. The ghost fleet was no longer dead. It was waking under his command. From the window, Daniel saw the alien invaders hesitate. Their formation shifted, their aggression faltering. They had come to salvage, maybe to conquer. But what they saw now terrified them. 300 warships, long silent, now stared back with glowing eyes. The invaders opened fire, desperate. Plasma bolts tore through the void, slamming into the alien battleships. But the ghost fleet responded instantly. Bright beams of energy shot back, cutting through enemy ships with terrifying precision. The battle was swift and brutal. Within minutes, the attackers were either destroyed or retreating into the dark. Daniel staggered back, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. He hadn't pressed buttons or issued orders. He hadn't directed the fight. The fleet had acted on its own, yet somehow it had acted for him. The console flared again. Primary user link established. Neural interface sync initiated. Before he could move, pain seared through his head. A flood of images and voices poured into his mind. Alien commanders shouting orders. Fleets clashing in star systems he had never seen. Civilizations burning. And always, the fleet fighting at the center of it. He gasped and grabbed the edge of the console. His vision blurred. The ship wasn't just showing him its memories. It was sharing its mind. He saw the last battle of this fleet. The empire that built them had been vast, powerful, feared by the galaxy. But they had enemies, too many to count. In the end, their empire collapsed, leaving only this armada. The fleet's creators had built one final safeguard. The ships would not die. They would wait. They would slumber until the right successor came. And that successor was not another alien race. It was humanity. Daniel fell to his knees, his chest heaving. His thoughts were a storm, colliding with alien memories. Why humans? Why him? He was no chosen warrior, no prophet, just one man. Yet the fleet had responded, chosen him without hesitation. He forced himself to breathe, whispering, "This is bigger than me, bigger than Earth." The ship answered with new text, "Secondary protocol, galactic broadcast ready." His blood ran cold. What broadcast? The console pulsed. Declaration of succession. The fleet has chosen. Daniel's eyes widened. If the fleet sent that message, the whole galaxy would know. Every empire, every power, every enemy still, watching would learn that humanity now commanded the most feared armada in history, and they would not accept it quietly. Alarms blared. The sensors lit up with more signatures, dozens, then hundreds. Other alien factions were converging on the sector drawn by the sudden awakening. They were not allies. They were rivals, desperate to seize what was now his. Daniel clenched his fists. The galaxy would soon descend upon him, but deep inside, beneath the fear, something stirred. For the first time, he understood. This was not just an accident. This was destiny. Humanity had been underestimated, ignored, even mocked by alien civilizations. But now, the galaxy's greatest weapon had chosen them. He rose to his feet, staring at the endless ghost fleet outside. Their lights shimmered like stars reborn, waiting for his command. And in that moment, Daniel Hayes stopped being an explorer. He became something else entirely. The clash. The void outside was no longer silent. Alien warships poured into the sector, like vultures drawn to a corpse. Dozens at first, then hundreds, sleek frigates, heavy cruisers, and dreadnoughts with banners from rival empires. They had come for the fleet. For centuries they had searched, whispered legends about a sleeping armada that could change the balance of power. Now it was awake, and a human stood inside its heart. Daniel Hayes gripped the alien console. His pulse hammered in his chest as he stared at the endless swarm of ships closing in. He was one man against the galaxy, but he wasn't alone anymore. The ghost fleet stretched across the stars, its 300 titans glowing like watchful giants. Their weapons were primed, their engines burning softly. And though Daniel had never commanded more than his tiny explorer, the fleet seemed to understand him, ready to follow, ready to fight. A message flashed on the console. Multiple factions. "Detected. Foreign control attempt imminent," Daniel muttered. "They'll try to hack you. Take you away from me." The console answered instantly. Primary user lock. Resistance guaranteed. His fear shifted into grim resolve. This was it. No turning back. The first alien ships fired. Plasma storms ripped across the black, burning trails of light. But the ghost fleet answered with silence, until Daniel whispered, "Defend." The response was immediate. The armada unleashed hell. Beams of white-hot energy cut through enemy frigates like paper, detonating them into bursts of fire and debris. Massive cannons thundered, shaking the void. Enemy cruisers tried to circle, but the ancient fleet moved as one, shifting formation, with perfect precision. Daniel's tiny explorer would have been destroyed in seconds, but inside this alien titan he felt untouchable. Still, the battle was chaos. Enemy factions didn't fight together. They fought each other too, desperate to claim the fleet. The stars filled with explosions, wreckage tumbling across the void. Daniel's breath came heavy as he watched. He wasn't pressing buttons, wasn't giving military orders. The fleet acted almost on instinct. but he felt its movements inside his own mind. When he thought of a target, ships responded. When he felt danger, shields shifted. It was more than command. It was connection. But then, a new alarm blared. Enemy boarding attempt detected. Daniel's blood ran cold. Through the viewport, he saw smaller craft darting toward the battleship, boarding pods sharp and fast, carrying troops. They slammed against the hull like arrows piercing armor. The console flashed, "Intruders on board!" Daniel grabbed his helmet, heart pounding. He wasn't a soldier. He had no weapon. But if they took control of this ship, the entire fleet could fall. The corridor lights dimmed as he moved through the alien halls, shadows stretching along the curved walls. His boots echoed with each step, and somewhere deeper inside he heard it, the metallic clank of other footsteps. He wasn't alone. Figures emerged from the smoke, tall armored aliens with glowing visors and weapons clutched in clawed hands. Their voices hissed through the comms, sharp and guttural. Daniel froze. His instinct screamed at him to run. But before the soldiers could raise their rifles, the walls pulsed. Panels slid open, and strange metallic drones unfolded, guardians left behind by the ship. The drones struck fast. Blades of light and plasma. Fire tore through the intruders. Screams echoed in the alien tongue as bodies fell to the floor. Daniel staggered back, stunned. The ship had protected him again. The console's voice echoed in his helmet. Primary user. Priority. Survival. All. Defense systems deployed. Daniel exhaled in relief, but it didn't last. His radar flashed with more alerts. Dozens of boarding pods attaching across the fleet. The enemy was desperate, throwing everything they had. He whispered, "They won't stop. Not until I'm dead. Or this fleet is theirs." The ship answered, "Then they will be shown." The battle outside reached its peak. The Ghost Fleet unleashed coordinated strikes, cutting through dreadnoughts, breaking enemy lines. But the attackers were relentless, waves upon waves. Every alien empire wanted this power. Inside, Daniel felt the weight of the galaxy pressing on his shoulders. For centuries, humans had been seen as small, fragile, unimportant. But now, he was standing at the center of the largest conflict in generations. This was no longer about survival. It was about proving what humanity was capable of. Through the glass, Daniel watched as the enemy fleet began to falter. One by one, they broke formation, retreating into the void, leaving behind wreckage and silence. The console glowed with a final message. Victory. Temporary. Greater forces will come. Daniel tightened his fists. He knew it was true. Today had been only the beginning. The galaxy had seen the awakening. Soon, entire civilizations would march against him. But he was ready. For the first time, Daniel Hayes no longer felt like a wanderer lost in space. He felt like the commander of destiny. The moment that shaped us, the battlefield was quiet again. Wreckage drifted in the void like broken bones of forgotten giants. Flames from shattered warships flickered faintly, then vanished into darkness. The once silent Ghost Fleet now glowed across the stars, every vessel awake, every cannon ready, every engine humming like a heartbeat. Daniel Hayes stood in the command chamber, chest heaving, staring at the console. He had survived the impossible. A single human had stood against the galaxy's predators and lived. But victory felt heavy like a shadow. He knew this was not the end. The console lit again. Primary user stable. Secondary protocol activation ready. Daniel swallowed. Secondary protocol? The alien words shifted into clear English, deliberate and final. Declaration of succession. The fleet will announce its new heir. His stomach clenched. He understood now. This wasn't just about him. The fleet had been waiting for humanity, for his kind. It was ready to tell the galaxy that the era of humans had begun. He stepped closer, voice tight. If you broadcast this, every empire will know. They'll come for us. They'll burn Earth to ashes before we can prepare. The console pulsed with a calm response. Or they will fear. Choice. Transmit or silence? Daniel froze. The weight of destiny pressed against his chest. If he silenced the fleet, humanity would remain hidden, safe, small. But if he transmitted, Earth would no longer be a background world. It would be a power, a threat, a name written into the galaxy's history. His hands trembled. He thought of home, blue skies, oceans, cities filled with people who had no idea what was coming. They lived simple lives, never imagining that alien eyes were watching them, judging them, dismissing them as weak. But he also thought of what he had just seen. The fleets of ancient empires had trusted humans with their greatest weapon, not because of strength or numbers, but because of something else, something inside them that no alien race had. Hope, resilience, the ability to rise. When the universe tried to crush them, Daniel clenched his jaw. He whispered, "They've underestimated us for too long." He pressed transmit. The chamber shook as the fleet lit brighter, every ship glowing like a star. Beacons flared across the void, pulsing with ancient signals. The transmission raced through hyperspace faster than light, spreading across systems, across sectors, across empires. The message was simple, impossible to ignore. The fleet has chosen. Humanity is heir. Daniel felt the shift in the air, as though the universe itself had changed. He could almost see it. The shock in alien councils, the fear in warlords, the whispers in marketplaces across worlds. They would not laugh at humans anymore. They would not dismiss them as fragile. They would see humanity as the new rising force. But with that came danger. War would follow. The galaxy would come to test them, to break them, to see if humans deserved the crown they had been given. Daniel placed his hand on the console. The ship responded, its lights pulsing with warmth, almost like trust. The fleet was no longer a ghost. It was his. It was theirs. For a moment, he stood in silence, staring at the armada stretching across the stars. Then he recorded his final log. "This is Captain Daniel Hayes. Today, I found an abandoned fleet. I thought it was just a discovery, a mystery lost in space. But it was more than that. This was the moment everything changed. For me, for Earth, for all of us. The galaxy wanted us small, invisible, forgotten. But from this day on, humanity will never be ignored again. We are not weak. We are not prey. We are the chosen, and this fleet is the proof." His voice cracked, but his eyes hardened. Outside, the warships moved in formation, waiting for their commander. Their guns gleamed, their engines roared softly, a storm ready to be unleashed. Daniel whispered to the stars, "Let them come." And with that, the ghost fleet, reborn, alive, unstoppable, shifted its course. Not away from danger, but toward the galaxy itself, because this was no longer just Daniel's story. This was humanity's beginning.